I'm Chris and this is Tanya. We sold our powerboat and now we go with the wind on Aurora. Someday we plan to sail around the world, but for now we're exploring the beauty of the Baltic Sea. Things aren't always straightforward with sailing, so we try to share the real experiences as well as the champagne sailing so you can get the most from our channel. On our adventures so far we have met so many great people and have been to some amazing places. We love to share this with you. Thank you so much for following and we hope to see you out there. Welcome back guys. In this episode we travel northwest from Lökaholmarna up to Finham. Breakfast on the make?
Yes, breakfast is on the make.
Thank you, honey. You're amazing. Good morning, everybody. It's Chris again, and we are out pretty early this morning because the wind is due to get up later in the day, actually, and it's coming from an awkward direction to get into Finham. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what I wanted to talk to you about is the sail plan with the self-tacking jib of the Hansa 418, or most Hansas actually. And you can see that we've just got the jib up today. It's blowing about 13 knots and we're doing about 4.5 to 5 knots. One of the great things about having a smaller blade self-tacking jib is that if you don't want the boat to be heeled over and you're cooking breakfast, for example, or some meal, and you just want a chill out sail, you can get the whole sail out without reefing it at all, in most cases up to about 20 knots, and you're not going to be like heeled over and really screaming along. It just gives you the choice and gives you a bit more flexibility, you could say. It doesn't overpower the boat immediately like with a big genoa, you know. I've heard many stories of boats with big genoas and it just overpowers like really quickly, and we've been actually with this sail setup because we've got the in-mast furler, which gives you slightly less sail area anyway, and then we've got the blade jib. We've been in situations where we've had like little squalls come along and we've had a really good blow, and yes, we've been heeled over all of a sudden quite far, but compared to other boats that we've been sailing next to with a big genoa and a bigger main and everything, they just get blasted over like completely on their side pretty much, and broaching and all kinds of problems. So there we go. Another 25 knot gust. I like the conservative sail plan, and you know, with the addition of the Code Zero now, it gives us that extra flexibility also for when the winds are light, because that's when we have problems with the smaller sail plan. When the winds are light, we can raise that one and get the boat moving a bit faster again. On the other hand, with the blade jib, it can be really good in heavy winds as well. I mean, right now 16 knots of wind, we're close hauled, and she's doing 6.2 knots just with that blade jib. It's a super nice sail actually, I can't recommend it enough. He's having a nice sail. In Finham you have the choice of sort of going to the east and the west side. The west side is Paradiset in the bay there, and the east side is another little harbour basically, but it's 2.2 meters deep and we draw 2.1 meters, and it's a very narrow channel as well, and I'm just not comfortable in there really, you know, risking bouncing the rudder off the floor and the keel also. I just rather avoid it, avoid unnecessary complications and repairs in the winter time. So we're gonna head into the east side in Paradiset, but the only problem is with that is the wind will come on the broadside. Worst case we could anchor in Paradiset, but another option is actually going around to the north side of Finham. There's a little bay there, but the problem is with the bay in the north side of Finham there, the ferries go past there, and there can be a bit of swell from the ferries, and I don't want to leave the boat against the rocks with the swell from the ferries. You know, it could just smash against the rocks, and it's not comfortable. When setting up to tie onto a stern buoy, there are a few things that we think about. Number one is making sure that you have enough rope for the bow to make it to the dock. This can be a tricky guesstimate sometimes, and if you don't have enough rope, it can really ruin your docking experience, that's for sure. Number two, make sure that the rope is free to run out, while keeping in mind not to get it wrapped around the prop if you have to reverse out. And finally, make sure it's tied onto the boat. Henrik on his powerboat more or less arrived at exactly the same time on the east side of the island, and he ran across the whole island to help us out because he thought it might be a tricky docking experience, and that's a really nice thing to do, so thanks for the help, Henrik.
There's a big rock over here.
Yes,
We need to go more this way.
Go this way, Chris.
Yes, and one there.
Ja, right.
Straight ahead here.
Oh, hej Henrik.
Hey!
Ja, men då så.
Hej, tack.
2 meters.
2 meters.
Some rock there, you see. And one over there. Was running over. Yeah.
Henrik, åh. Tack snälla.
I did see you. You was just south of me when I passed through. Think this could be a little tricky. Need some extra hands.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry you had to run.
Nothing.
Little run there.
Yes.
One good thing to do, actually, just to help you get the tension on the lines here, is to just take the rope and just put it around the winch, and then just lock it off on the cleat behind it as well, and then you can really control how much tension you've got on the back of the buoy there. You can see I've got quite a bit on there now, but I could wind it up a lot more than that, and I know these buoys in Finham are very, very strong, so I'm not too worried about that. And there's a lot of weight on the other side. There's probably like 4 or 5 tons on that or something like that, so feeling pretty safe. And we do have the option as well to get water here, but we pay for the litre. So right now we've got about 60% in the main tank still, and then 100% in the starboard tank, so we still got a lot of water, to be honest, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I left the camera running a little bit on the port side of the boat to see some of the boats that were coming into dock, and as you can tell, the wind is pretty strong on the broadside at the moment, so it was causing some issues. Now, of course, we've all been there, so I didn't leave the camera there just so that we can laugh at other people, but maybe so we can learn a little bit from it. Now you can see when these guys are coming in, they're coming in at more or less a 45-degree angle, which is actually a really good way of doing it. Other people, they come in, they can rely completely on the bow thruster, and that's another way of doing it, but not my preferred way. Or, like the Jeremy Clarkson way, speed and power. Of course, in a powerboat this is made a little bit more difficult because you've got a flat bottom on the boat and no keel to stop the boat from going sideways, like a sailboat does. A little later on, while she was passing the rope to someone on the dock, she actually fell forward and went overboard, and I was a little bit worried here because there's rocks down there, and if she hit her head, that would not have been a good story. Luckily she was okay and just swam to the back of the boat, but just goes to show you got to be really careful on the water. I'm glad she was okay though. On the way in, the anchor wasn't thrown out, probably because of the added stress with the wind on the broadside, but personally I probably would have thrown it out a little bit further than that. Now guys, please don't think about me as the guy that wants to put anyone else down. I don't want to do that. We've all had our bad days, and trust me, I've had my fair share of them, that's for sure. Sometimes Tanya comes to me and says, "Chris, you smell, you need to go and wash." So a good way of doing that, rather than using the boat shower, is just to go ahead and do it off the back of the bathing platform. Now, because we're putting this soap in the water, a good thing to do is to go out and buy biodegradable, ecological soap, so that you don't harm the environment, and you can go out and buy this in most marine stores. That's the look of sweet, sweet shore power, people. Like, it's so nice to actually get some shore power and get it up from 40 or 50%. Almost a week without shore power. It's been sort of okay, actually, with a bit of with a bit of motoring. There has been a lot of sun. I haven't had the big solar panel out all the time, but a week without shore power and charging all that we charge with all the drones and everything like that, it's not too bad. I'm pretty happy with that. So you could always do with more solar, but yeah, it's a project for another day. Let's talk about fender placement, guys. Now, obviously, when you saw us coming in, the wind was coming from the right side, so our fender placement was pretty easy, right? You'd put sort of like 70 to 80% of the fenders on the left side, because that's where the wind's gonna blow you, okay? If there's anything wrong that's gonna happen and the boat stops, it's quickly gonna blow you onto the boat on the left side. If the wind's coming from the starboard, you're gonna blow to port. In this situation, like if we was to leave the boat, I don't know who's gonna come in next to us. More than likely, we'd swap most of the fenders and put them on the right side, because if a boat comes in, they're gonna have the same thing, right? And the most likely place they're gonna hit you is on the windward side of the boat. So you can see on the boat now, I've put 4 fenders on one side and 5 on the other, with the most likely possibility of them hitting us, like I said, to the windward side of the boat. Now I tried to spread them out evenly, and then I tried to put them up fairly high as well, because that's the most likely contact point on the boat. If the boat's big, they need to be higher. If it's smaller, then they need to be lower, but you've just got to make a balance in between the two, and then you're pretty much safe. Especially when you've got a boat with big windows like this, is to try and avoid putting the fenders over the windows, because if the windows get scratched, it's perspex usually, it's very difficult to polish out. If the gel coat gets scuffed up or rubbed a bit, it's very easy to polish out. So. You can see over here as well, I've just put an extra safety line here also, just in case the wind gets really strong. It's better to rely on 2 points of contact, especially on docks like this with the wood, and then you feel a bit more secure. How to ensure that nobody gets the same buoy as you? Just suck it underwater. It's out there somewhere. Good morning everybody. Last night we just spent with friends on the other side of the island, so I didn't really switch the camera on that much. So it is the next day today, and today Tanya is learning how to do up the lifelines so that they're tight again. And the reason why they were so loose is that these 2 stanchions on the lifelines there actually got bent in slightly from last winter, because when the winter wrap was on, a lot of ice ended up on the top, and then it put a lot of weight on those stanchions and bent them in a bit. So they are in order, they just haven't arrived yet, so I've just got to replace those when they come in. But today is a maintenance day really. We're doing some bits and pieces, you know, doing a few jobs around the boat, doing some cleaning maybe, things like that. It's nice to get the boat back up to shape again, and back up to a state where we like it, you know. What have you found, honey?
Did you hear it?
Yeah. Noisy, noisy, noisy. It's around midday at the moment, and you can see that there's a lot of boats coming in and going out at this time, and this is more or less the changeover time for any anchorage around the Stockholm archipelago, you know. As the saying goes, the early bird catches the worm, so the earlier you come in, the more chance that you're going to get of a better space in in the marina. Same with a lot of places in the world, I guess. Now I'm just going around the rig as well, just checking all these U-bolts, because there's a hell of a lot of U-bolts on here, and you can see this one down here, yeah, it's getting loose, so I just need to nip them up. And obviously, if we were sailing around the world, what I'd do is actually spend quite a bit of time going around all these U-bolts with some locking wire as well, just to really make sure that they're all locked up and really secure, because the last thing you want on an ocean passage, and I don't know from experience, but I've heard from many other sailing channels, and I think Nick Fabry from Sailing Yacht Ruby Rose has said this many times as well, is that the time when the U-bolt is going to release is going to be in the absolute middle of the night in a gale at the worst possible time, and you're going to end up with a sail flapping, and then you're going to have to try and get that down, and yeah, just problems like that can be avoided, I guess. But being as we're just sailing locally at the moment, I just keep an eye on these U-bolts and just nip them up every so often, and just do a general check around the rig and all of the parts to it. I mean, right now I can see at least 2 or 3 of these U-bolts starting to loosen off, you know, and the last thing you want is for these to release, because, well, perhaps down here it wouldn't cause you too much of a problem, but if there was a lot of strain on the rig, they'd be flying all over the place and possibly causing damage to your boat and the gel coat and all that kind of stuff, and it's just not what you want. So just do your checks every so often. It can really help out. I would say about 60% of the U-bolts were actually getting loose. So just going to enjoy Paradiset today. I met some YouTube subscribers actually. They're going to come and join us in a bit for a few drinks, so that should be quite nice. And yeah, I'm just going to enjoy ourselves a little bit. Oh well, good morning everybody. Last night was an awesome night. We met so many people came into Finham last night, some old friends and some new friends through YouTube, so that was super awesome. Now we're going down to the beach at the end of Paradisviket to do some yoga with the guys, and it's the first time I've done yoga in my life, so this should be absolutely hilarious, to be honest. Let's see what happens. But yeah, it's a beautiful morning. Some nice winds to sail on today, so we see what happens.
You remember yesterday we did a lot of projects on the boat, and one of the projects was to hang our new spice rack, and I'm really happy about the results. So all of these are magnetic, and then they have like a small, so you can dosage small, or there is a bigger hole as well in them. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm a bit anxious to see how it does in high sea. I might want to take some of them down. We have talked about putting up an additional one, but want to test this one out first.
After 2 days in Finham, we felt like it was time to move on. You know, you need to raise the sails, see some new places, and just get out there and explore someplace new as well. Join us next time as we head to a new anchorage in Store, and there's many more things to come, I can tell you that. Cheers guys, see you next time.